Hello everyone and welcome to the third lecture. I'm Riya Panchal and I'll be your moderator for this lecture. Faandee Arts Archival Documentation and Research is an initiative started by artist Nikhil Purohit. It is a cultural organization dedicated to encourage arts documentation, archiving and research practices. Through arts education as an integral element, Fandi offers a range of content for informal learning and professional service to art community of collection management and art conservation consultation. Initiated in 2016, Fandi has collaborated with Kochi Benale Foundation, Sara, Karnataka, run by Arun Kumar HG, NGMA, Mumbai, Rachna Satsang AFAC, International Print Exchange Program, India, and other organizations and individuals for documentation and pedagogical projects. Fandi's pedagogical work is focused on empowering learning in vernacular media and a wide range of public sessions which can be accessed through its YouTube channel and Instagram accounts. Today is a new lecture of the series called Parallel Practices, Opting the Best Visual Art Profession. This is a series about art professionals pursuing off-track careers. Art profession, as we know, is a versatile field, and choosing one from them is difficult. This series brings you insight from artists' life who have changed their work interests. Besides traditional studio-based practice, there are prominent but niche areas linked to education, cultural sectors, service, and media enterprise that require creative minds with unique ability sets and proficiency. How did they gain the special knowledge? What kind of work cultures they have? How do they deal with changing scenario in professions they've chosen? How do they upgrade their knowledge? And how well do they make a living? So for our third session, we are here with Ramalingaiah. After her BFA from Sir J.J. School of Art, she pursued Masters in Museology from Faculty of Fine Arts. She has completed another Masters in Art History and Visual Studies at University of Hyderabad. Shruti has worked with private, public museums and galleries in the past, currently working as an independent curator interested in intersections of material culture, art, and city. She will be presenting today, and later we can take questions from the viewers. Welcome, Shruti.
Hi everyone, thank you. Good morning all. So my presentation would begin with a background. As Ria had already mentioned, to my starting with my schooling, where I was raised, and then so on and so forth as continue with my later post-graduation master's programs that I was trained academically. So I was raised in Jalgaon, a town in Maharashtra, north of Maharashtra, and my schooling, or from the time of the schooling, there was a slight inclination of mine towards art, and something which was understood by my family by then itself, by during my secondary schooling time, and. Um, but you know, the very chance or a guidance to really know about whether this is a field to go into, or is there a training which is, you know, available. This wasn't something which was at hand because nobody from my family was into the field or with the arts, had no connection, but there was some interest in art in my family. So with the help of my sister and a little research, I was introduced to a teacher in the town, and with his guidance I could really get to know that okay, there is something, art institute which is quite nearby, JJ School of Art, and that is how, with his guidance and training, I got through JJ School. And as entering to the entering to the college, it was altogether a very different experience because coming to a new city. Bombay was everything was very different compared to what was earlier, and academically, JJ was something a little bits that I have done in my prior training during my higher secondary education, and that was a very less than compared to the very rigorous training I would say that happened at JJ. It was a lot. mm about developing skills. So basically, it was the fundamentals of the color theory and sketching and drawing, and a very rigorous thing that happens in the foundation year. So moving ahead of that simultaneously, along with uh, you know um, the the exercise that was given at the college, there was something also which was there, that was maintaining a diary or a notes, uh, and at the same time, during the course of 4 years, it became very evident that a study or emphasis on developing skills was so much. It was also a lot of emphasis on what to see or what is seen, and taking that a step further. Um, at the same time, while at the institute, I was able to also, come and connect, or the way navigating through the city, and also a lot of learning that happened, but in a very different manner, especially when we are a student, you are kind of encompassed into the institute. You go through a lot of training process, but at the same time, when you step out and keep start visiting galleries or museum, that is something that keep bringing in a lot of questions into your mind, and that was something that hit me. Apart from gallery, my visits to museum was a part of a small modular study in third or final year of my bachelor's degree, where I started. And that was altogether a new experience, because before this, I haven't visited museums. So going to a museum culture, that culture was not really something which was there. And as a city which had a lot of things to offer, this was one of it. So, but having visited museums, then there was uh, a few things that kind of I felt that I was interested into. First thing was, the basics of what is the object like, what is it made of, or just this idea of just knowing the history of it. But apart from that, when I really, gave it a thought or learned from friends about there is a certain at certain point there is a master's course available in this direction. The first thing wasn't really that okay, I would go ahead and join a master's degree course, because the when I started doing research about what is museology, uh, uh, I came across the very the basic layout, a course outline, and I was left with so many questions that it is a mix of practical and theory, but a lot of theory that went into it. From where it was a big question, because 4 years of a training which had art history as the course, but something which wasn't really major course as such. Majority of the time was spent into the classroom, studios, working uh, and practicing in different mediums, and all of that. But when it comes to mythology, the very thought that came to me was whether is it too much of theory? Would I be able to cope with all of this? So it was only after going to the faculty. So I joined at the Faculty of Fine Arts in MS University. And as I said, research was the very basis where I got a basic framework and a course outline, which did not really give me a very clear picture of what it would be, but of course, something that let me understand at that time, at least, that it was a mix of things, and it was around museum management, and that is what was that which I could understand out of that. And also the faculty had a very uh, history of different kinds of research uh, that has happened into this field. So what was it like? What was my key learning that happened there? So as you see here, there are a few topics or courses that I pointed. A few of them were quite theoretical, but this understanding that museology is all about theory kind of um, vanished after entering into the course. So it had a certain elements of uh, learning conservation, restoration, but on a very basic level, because uh, the very but also at the same time the practicals, for the practicals there were certain labs that were there in the department itself. The department had quite a good collection of objects, uh, of different materials and all of that. So there was uh, that. Then museum display, when it comes to museum display, usually uh, it is understood as a very theoretical subject, but a lot of practical and internships was part of the course. So I could uh, get my hands on with quite a lot of different museums and collections that uh, we as a batch, entire batch would go to, and that would give us, a sense of handling a object, or at least going closer to certain object, which is not really possible as a visitor when we go. So that all knowledge was something that was quite a lot. So after completing my museology, it was a point in time where I started thinking of, really getting into a museum space. Started writing to museums, which I got to know through my friends, through my colleagues, and a few museums that I approached. Kind point replied back, and after that, I joined a museum in Jodhpur, Mehrangarh Museum, as a curatorial assistant. And most of these aspects that I just spoke about were something that I experienced there. A co-working with the team of uh, curators and different uh, staff for documentation and conservation, all of that. So I could get a, a closer look at the huge collection that the museum has. So after having uh, worked here for a year, a question, or say something that I was constantly, left with is, usually museum curation is something which is, mm, uh, in the very old definition of museum curation would be a caretaker, uh, or a caretaker who looks or oversees a certain collection, or focused on one kind of collection. So that is something which is a very, a traditional definition of it. Today, the things have completely changed, and with my experience in terms of, you know, uh, working at the museum in Mehrangarh, I could really, I was really interested into going deeper, but at the same time, my interest towards um, writing or analyzing a certain artworks, um, mm, or trying to even understand, or trying to just think of how art history could be integrated, or whether is it possible to integrate art history to museology, and in what ways. This was one of the things which I started uh, to kind of uh, contemplate on, and started working towards looking at institutions which are um, providing offering art history studies. And so I joined the University of Hyderabad, the SM School of Arts and Communication, after my year of working at the museum. So there is quite a lot of difference between what I did at museums. It was uh, a lot about uh, displaying, organizing, at the same time. Storytelling is a major part uh, mm, of museums. But when I came to art history, there was something which I felt that I'm more uh, connected to, and that was a lot about uh, you know um, about learning different methods of research, and also something that was added, or I kind of learned at the art history, was a lot about analysis, how to analyze a visual or a work of art, or uh, how to also gaining the abilities to critically look at, or talk about, or write about. But this doesn't just happen as easy, because as I said, in the whole process, the language is something which is a very crucial, plays a very crucial part. And theories and inquiries into the art history. So there were also subjects which were taught, were Indian art history and Western art history, where at this point I could go a little more deeper uh, into understanding, but at the same time analyzing for myself. So altogether, after this, I kind of uh, moved on uh, to a few um, research works that I did, which were irrespective of what my research focus were, but something which allowed me to go through a certain or learn a certain methodologies. At the same time, I also came across um, the NGMA in Bombay, where I had applied for as a deputy curator's post. So after the interview and my, you know, another workplace, which was a very different compared to my prior one, because NGMA was NGMA had a collection which was quite interesting, because I could really get to uh, you know have a closer look at uh, artworks, but at the same time, the connection with the artist, or meeting the artist, or learning from the curators in terms of exhibition planning and designing. All of that happened simultaneously, but this was a very slow process. It wasn't at a go. So this is an example that I thought I would bring in terms of what I learned at my prior academic trainings, and how when I uh, got, through uh, uh, all of my workplaces, but at the same time later when I was working at or as a fellow and a co-curator at the Students Biennale at Kochi Biennale Foundation, uh, there was some aspects that I just want to point in that manner, which I thought would mm, um, would would kind of let me through um, So the image that we see here, there are two kinds of sites. When it comes to uh, this project that I kind of was with, at this place, the workplace was quite uh, uh, huge, and that was the first time where I came across. Um, such a setup, such a site where I was able to um, kind of, uh, you know, go and work along with many fellows and experts. But at the same time, what was it that kind of led me to, you know, uh, constantly think of uh, uh, bringing together the very designing elements of exhibition, at the same time the research that goes into this. Before there is a certain kind of research that went into this, so the artists that I visited, the studio visits that I did, and after that, uh, when we come back together and discussed about the uh, the concept or the ideas of the whole thing. The later part comes, the designing part or the planning part, and that was the time where, if you see the left image, is something I thought would be a good example of outdoor or a environment, because that is the time where, mm, at some point, uh, uh, one kind of is able to, uh, you know, um, uh, go ahead with what all works that are being selected. So if there are quite a lot of work, those I had in front of me from the various institutions, but at the same time, when I am working with a bunch of other curators, they had quite a lot of it again. So how that can come along in the very, the concept of contextualizing of this exhibition, and that happened here because, when we say the image on the right, which is quite like a gallery image, a very restricted indoor image, basically a built image, and in the the one left one is a outdoor image. So the very basic uh, skills, something that I learned at the JJ, and I don't know if I could really connect it directly, but there is a in a way where, along with the other team members who work on the the planning and layout part, it is always essential or important to keep thinking simultaneously of the 3D space, and thinking of also what kind of work or artist, suppose artist is doing an installation, then what kind of installation can really encompass a space. And when it comes to a gallery space, it is quite built and uh, inbuilt space, but there the very navigation or circulation of movement entirely changes, the dimension changes. But at some point, these aspects of um, um, visualizing a space was something which I think I always can connect back to my prior academic learnings, and which comes in easily through that. So, yeah, I think I'll let the session open for questions. And
Okay, so that was an interesting visual aspect of what curation and museology exactly was. So I would like to ask few questions. Um, could you tell me what um, what exposure led you to the choices you made regarding your post graduation? Like after post graduation, what were what jobs or internships and how were you exposed to that in this
yeah,
field?
So when it, mm, I think a lot of it was through friends, firstly, and second part was research. Something that happened, or something that was a very crucial part of learning after my second master's, um, where you also start uh, writing to people, writing to scholars, or writing to museums or galleries, and that is a quite a long process. It doesn't happen in a day or so. So that takes a time, but also research in terms of keep searching about um, opportunities, uh, and in line with what your interests are. Sometimes um, you might not be really clear or sure about what exactly direction that you're taking, but a lot came along for me through colleagues, uh, and just discussing about the work, discussing about in the workplace about that kind of work. So yes.
Okay. Because I wanted to ask this question because majorly post graduation के बाद it is very difficult to find your way through curating and museology as a field because uh, of the very limited opportunities which are which the young graduates are exposed to. So other than doing research work and applying here and there through colleagues and what are the other options we can
Research.
pursue?
Yeah, but research in terms of today we have quite a many ways, to kind of, we don't really have to go to a library, something that we can easily do online, right? So research in terms of uh, at some point it is also it's just finding a certain channel, and that would happen through such research. That is what I can. I don't know. Is it um, something that I could answer?
Well, I mean, क्योंकि अभी dissertation research work is mainly involved मतलब हमारे syllabus में it involves last semester है या third year में we generally do the research work so we already know it but sometimes after you are graduated what to do with that research there comes
Yeah,
उस
but
time
then,
पे there comes a barrier to what to do.
yeah, my research or thesis is something that I feel is really. mm, I mean, today, if I use, I would say it went to wait, because that isn't really something which I work on. But there are certain elements of or certain parts of my research which did help into in a way which I could channelize later, focus in terms of a little writing work that I had done.
Hmm.
So not entire part of my thesis or dissertation was something that I could further as a research. So my interest kind of, I would say, shifted, and that transition took a while. Like even after my art
Hmm.
history, if I had to say, it took a year or over that, uh, when I uh, applied for NGMA. So even applying there are so many things, so many questions that you ask yourself. And as I also said, even after my first master's, the very first thing that kind of hit me was whether would I want to put a 2 year more time, into, because that has a lot which is related to the family. You kind of have to keep answering a lot of questions that they have. As much the field is new to you, it's much more different and new to the family. So I think that support uh, was something, was the families, that family that kind of gave. Um, but as I said, coming back to this, the a thesis might not really always, and in my case, it did not happen. It did not come to fruition in the context of
Hmm.
after this, after my master's.
Um, so one more question is the primary academic learning useful in your current profession? And how has it, मतलब, उसका, like, what was the role which it played right now in your current profession?
I think if I have to talk of primary, I think that's not directly connected, but in some ways, there are, times, like certain, um, mm, when it came to something that I kind of, I think, missed in the very last slide, was the very distinctions of indoor and outdoor. But at the same time, what is happening is, uh, s- um, at the this fellowship that I was selected at, that I participated, there is a whole lot of team that comes along. So as I said, there is a huge team which helps you and which is right away there too. So there are architects, there are planners, there are designers. They work alongside, right? So we alongside work. But then there are some times when I'm on my research field, that is when I visited the artist studios, mm, looking at the work, uh, on trying to understand some things that I could really connect to in so many ways. Something that also got reflected into how I'm contextualizing that later as an exhibition, say subject, you can say, or concept. Uh, but the majority of that uh, learning that we're talking about, the primary academic, um, I can point at certain things where, just the very instinct, this thing, like, sorry, the very thing that uh, you have to kind of visualize how certain works or certain medium or a certain this thing would look like in a space. I think that is the a point in time. Also, color and lighting is something uh, which I feel helped a lot. Those skills helped a lot. But there is always this aspect of visualization, which I felt was quite thing, from my primary thing.
Shruti, there are several things which comes to mind, like maybe very basic. आपण जेव्हा व्हिज्युअलायझेशन म्हणतो, क्युरेशन करतानाही व्हिज्युअलायझेशनची गरज आहे आणि आर्टिस्ट म्हणून सुद्धा व्हिज्युअलायझेशनची गरज आहे. आणि यू हॅव बीन इन ऑल द रोल्स. मग आर्टिस्ट म्हणून व्हिज्युअलायझेशन करताना आणि एक क्युरेटर म्हणून व्हिज्युअलायझेशन करताना नेमकं काय फरक पडतो? म्हणजे अर्थात दोन्ही डायनामिक्स वेगळे आहेत, दोन्ही ठिकाणं वेगळे आहेत. आर्टिस्ट त्याच्या कामाबद्दल करत असतो आणि क्युरेटर त्याच्या प्रदर्शनीच्या मांडणीबद्दल करत असतो. सो नेमका फरक व्हिज्युअलायझेशन मध्ये काय पडतो किंवा काय बदल होतो?
I think with artists, it is more about your work. But when it comes to curation, what I have experienced is it is also my role is slightly um, towards how my interest or my concept just that is something which is a give and take. But there is always a space for artists. So that I can't really take agency of that work. I think हा major फरक. I don't know if I could clear.
पण एकंदर आता बघायचं झालं बऱ्याच वेळेला क्युरेटर्स एक विशिष्ट काम कमिशन करतात चित्रकारांना किंवा कलाकारांना. सो तेव्हा अमुक काम त्यांच्या व्हिज्युअलायझेशन मध्ये हे एका अर्थी ते कला एक आर्ट फॉर्मच तयार करतात. एक्झिबिशन म्हणजे आर्ट फॉर्म अशा पद्धतीने काहीतरी उभं राहत असतं. सो मग त्या रोल बद्दल काय म्हणशील?
आय थिंक ते होण्याचे चान्सेस आहेत. जस्ट फॉर एक्झाम्पल म्हणजे ॲट द व्हेरी स्टार्ट ना, जेव्हा मी माझ्या फेलोशिपच्या वेळेस जे स्कूल विजिट करायचे, तर तिथल्या सगळ्या आर्टिस्टशी बोलताना वगैरे समटाइम्स असं वाटायचं की आय एम टर्निंग टुवर्ड्स जे मी आता म्हटलं की आपण आर्टिस्टची रोल मतलब पूर्ण करायला जातोय टाइप्स. तर तो आय थिंक इज अ प्रोसेस जिथे की तुम्हाला स्वतःला म्हणजे कसं द वे यू सेट की ऍज अ आर्टवर्क ती मांडणी करून त्यांच्या समोर दाखवणं आणि दॅट बिकम्स आर्ट. तर आय थिंक हे द व्हेरी म्हणतो ना की जेव्हा आपण स्पेसमध्ये काम इन्स्टॉल करतोय तेव्हा आर्टिस्टला त्यांचं स्पेस आणि त्यांची काय म्हणता येईल त्यांचे आयडियाज आणि त्यांचे अप्रोचेस ना एक्झिक्यूट करणं आणि करायला देणं. आय थिंक तो एक पार्ट ऑफ इट आहे. पण हा त्या ह्याच्यामध्ये आपण पडू शकतो लाईक ऍज अ क्युरेटर फॉर शुअर दॅट कुड हॅपन. कारण की कुठेतरी एक असतं ना की ऍज अ आर्टिस्ट आय हॅव ऑल्सो प्रॅक्टिस आणि आय थिंक ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी त्या ह्याच्यामध्ये वी काइंड ऑफ इट माइट टर्न टुवर्ड्स falling into that trap.
राईट. बऱ्याच वेळेला आपण कॉलेजमध्ये असताना म्हणजे क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग हा एक भाग कायम आपल्याला ऐकायला येतं. अर्थात आपण शिकत असताना हा प्रकार रिलेटिव्हली कमी होतं, नंतर आपण एक्सपोजर आपल्याला मिळालं. पण क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग म्हणजे नेमकं काय? विद्यार्थ्यांनी क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग करावं किंवा मग ते क्रिटिकल थिंकिंगसाठी एक वेगळी बैठक लागते किंवा असं एक वेगळे विचार अमुक अभ्यास करून क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग तयार होतं, असं काही आहे का? म्हणजे मुळात क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग क्युरेटरनी क्रिटिकल थिंक करणं, आर्टिस्टनी करणं किंवा कला लेखकाने करणं, नेमकं क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग हा प्रकार काय?
आय थिंक क्रिटिकल कडे जाण्यापूर्वी आपण अॅनलायझिंग बद्दल बोललेलं महत्वपूर्ण आहे. म्हणजे ऍट अ स्टुडंट लेवल, म्हणजे ज्या प्रकारे तू म्हणालास की जेव्हा आपण बॅचलर्स डिग्रीमध्ये आपल्याला तो एक डिरेक्शन आय थिंक नाही मिळाला किंवा त्या ह्याच्यात आपण नाही हे पडलो, पण आपण इनफॅक्ट जे आपल्याला स्किल्स किंवा टेक्निक्स होते त्या हिशोबाने आपण आर्ट हिस्ट्री बघितलं की हाऊ क्लोज आय कुड रीच. पण त्याच्या व्यतिरिक्त एक आर्टवर्क किंवा व्हिज्युअल किंवा ऑब्जेक्टला रीड करणं आय थिंक सुरुवात इथून होते. तर अॅनलायझिंग मध्ये सगळ्यात महत्वाचं आपण म्हणू शकतो की एक भाग असतो स्टोरी, जिथं आपण सुरुवात करतो की जस्ट बेसिक डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑफ अ वर्क, आणि मग जसं आपण पुढे त्याच्यात जातो तर what do we exactly see in a work, but there is one more part that comes before critical is interpretation, and I think हे दोघी गोष्टी मग एकत्र होतात की ऍज अ से अ रायटर आणि मग रायटर किंवा जस्ट अ व्ह्युअर फॉर दॅट मॅटर, तर तुम्ही कशा प्रकारे त्या आर्टवर्कशी रिलेशन मांडत आहात किंवा नाही मांडत आहात, तुमचे अंडरस्टँडिंग कसे आहेत त्या आर्टवर्क बद्दल, किंवा तुम्ही आर्टिस्टशी बोलून बघून आणि मग तुमचे कशा प्रकारे व्हॉट आर यू इंटरप्रिटिंग थ्रू दॅट. आय थिंक ते महत्वाचं आहे. आय थिंक दॅट काइंड ऑफ connects to what पण या
आता अर्थात इट हॅज बीन अ लॉंग जर्नी. 6 वर्ष प्लस 2 वर्ष असं तू एकंदर 8 एक वर्ष तू शिक्षण घेतलेस. सो यामधनं क्युरेटर होण्यासाठी जे निर्णय हळू टप्प्याटप्प्याने घेत आलीस आणि अर्थात तू म्हणालीस की अनेक लोकांना उत्तर द्यावं लागतं की आपण अजून का शिकतोय किंवा अजून पुढचं काय शिकण्याचा निर्णय घेतोय. सो या सगळ्यामध्ये क्युरेटर होण्यासाठी कुठले गुण अपेक्षित आवश्यक आहेत?
The last part, can you repeat?
Like what kind of qualities are we looking at? नेमके कुठले गुण क्युरेटरला असले पाहिजे जेणेकरून तो एक चांगले प्रदर्शन मांडू शकेल किंवा त्याची संकल्पना लोकांसमोर येऊ शकेल?
चांगले गुण असं आय डोंट नो. नो काय माहिती मला, तू एखादं रिफ्रेश करशील परत?
बेसिकली वेन वी से आपण जेव्हा म्हणतो की कामाची भरपूर आपल्याला माहिती पाहिजे, अनेक कामं बघून आपल्याला सवय पाहिजे, राईट. मग ते काम व्हिज्युअलायझेशनचे गुण आहे, तू ऑलरेडी म्हणालेलीस आहेस की व्हिज्युअलाइज करताना एखाद्या स्पेसचं व्हिज्युअलायझेशन आपण कसं करतोय हे तर पाहिजेच आहे. सो असे इतर अमुक एखाद्या कन्सेप्टच्या प्रदर्शनासाठी ते चित्र निवडताना काय काय बघावं लागतं किंवा ते क्युरेटरला काय काय जबाबदाऱ्या पेलाव्या लागतात. सो म्हणजे अर्थात त्याच्यामध्ये ऍडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव्ह स्किल्स पण गरज आहे, कम्युनिकेशनची पण गरज आहे. सो अशा वेगवेगळे गुणांची गरज असते, क्वालिटीज.
लिसनिंग स्किल पण एक खूप महत्वाचं आहे. टाइम मॅनेजमेंट आणि काहीतरी एम्पथी असणं. जेव्हा आपण कुठल्याही आर्टिस्टशी भेटतो किंवा बोलतो and in context of the later part of exhibitions जे मी बोलत होते, तर ते असणं खूप गरजेचं आहे असं मला वाटतं.
ओके. सो आता अर्थात एका मोठ्या स्पेसमध्ये तुला जेव्हा काम करायला मिळालं कोचीमध्ये, सो त्या ट्रान्झिशन बद्दल काही जास्त सांगता येईल का? किंवा मोठ्या स्पेसेस आणि छोट्या स्पेसेसमध्ये अर्थात सो ग्रुप शोज छोट्या स्पेसमध्ये किंवा आपण ज्याला अर्बन गॅलरीज म्हणतो तिकडेही केलेलं आहे आणि कोची बिएनाले सारख्या ठिकाणी सुद्धा स्टुडंट्स बिएनालेमध्ये तू क्युरेशन केलेलं आहेस. सो या सगळ्यामध्ये दोन्हीमध्ये जागेचा कसा बदल पडतो आणि मग तिकडे काय काय बघावं लागतं?
स्केल हा एक खूप महत्वाचा आय थिंक तिथे फरक आहे. पण ऍट द सेम टाइम जी जागा ती जी कोचीमध्ये होती फॉर एक्झाम्पल, त्याचा लिमिट आपण म्हणू शकतो की तो जरा कमी आहे, थोडस लिमिटलेस आहे. आणि इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ जेव्हा आपण तिथे आर्टवर्क येणार आहे असं याबद्दल बोलत आहोत, तर तो अप्रोच इन टर्म्स ऑफ स्केल, डिस्टन्स आणि मग व्ह्यूअर इंटरॅक्शन या सगळ्या गोष्टीचा खूप फरक पडतो. जेव्हा अर्बन गॅलरी जसं तू म्हणालास, तिथे तिथे लिमिटेशन नसतात, पण तुम्ही त्या जागेला कसं नॅव्हिगेट करवणार व्ह्युअर्सना, आय थिंक ते खूप इम्पॉर्टंट होऊन जातं. कारण व्ह्युअर ऍट द एंड इज अ व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट आस्पेक्ट किंवा समथिंग दॅट विल इनकॉर्पोरेट, म्हणजे एक ह्युमनचा प्रेझेन्स तिथे असणार आहे, तर या गोष्टी न विसरता असं.
Yes, over to you, Riya.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful session and काफी insightful था. And I hope young graduates who are pursuing or thinking about, going towards curating, as well as museology के भी काफी insights आपने दिए. So that was a very good opportunity for us to learn. Thank you so much. And viewers, if you have any questions, you can DM us on Instagram page, Faandee, or also comment down on our YouTube channel. Do follow us, like, and subscribe to our channel. And we'll be back with another lecture next week.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Ria.